Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name is Dave Woodrelli. I am joined by Harman Dial. I'll say this right off top. I was texting with Irfaan Gaffar right before the show started, and he might join us just to kind of talk more about this whole Demko stuff going on. And I honestly think that's where we're going to start. Let's start there. This morning, the Canucks recall Jiri Patera, the goaltender in Abbotsford, who's been off to a good start, as you heard earlier this week with Dave Hall. Jiri Patera recalled from the Abbotsford Canucks, and Thatcher Demko not on the ice for Friday's practice. Now, obviously, Irf's already here. What the hell? Okay, perfect. Irf's going to join us quick. Obviously, when you see this, you immediately think, okay, this means a Thatcher Demko injury. We were talking about a rebuild yesterday. We were talking about, okay, what if the bottom falls out? And a Thatcher Demko injury could certainly spell the bottom falling out on this team. But it was presented actually not specifically as maintenance. Jacob, let's play the clip. I'm not putting any words in Adam Foote's mouth. This is what the Canucks head coach said after practice when he was giving an update on Thatcher Demko.
That's not a story, but I'll explain it to you. We asked him this summer, and we had a conversation with him to take care of himself and know in a condensed schedule when he feels he needs, a little bit of time off, and that's what he's doing. I don't want to say words that people don't like or like maintenance or whatever, but I'll give you an example. You play a long time, it's not Thatcher, but say you have a back surgery, and early in your career, as you get a chance to play a long time, in your last 7 years, 5 years, the latter half of your career, there's times where you can feel something else, like compensation, right? So you might have to have a maintenance day or some time to work on something. So that's it. That's all. So and he's such a great leader that he doesn't want to ever miss a day. And, even his teammates in the summer in the leadership meetings are like, one thing we always talked about was, Demmer, you got to know when to go and take care of you in a certain situation. And he's doing what we asked him to do. And I like that.
Is he an option for this weekend then?
He may be. We'll see. We'll see. Like, we're going to go with this thing as we wake up every morning, right? And that's just the way I approach things anyway as a person.
Bring in Irfaan Gaffar to help us get some more context on this. Irf is brought to you by our friends at Greta, who I'll do the ad read for afterwards. Irf, can you explain this to us? What's going on with Thatcher Demko here?
Oh, I think Adam Foote did his best of trying to explain what the situation is. I take a look back. I'll give you an example. Anthony Stolarz was given a full day off before back-to-back once this season. In a condensed schedule, they are playing a lot of hockey. Now, I get the angst among the fan base. I 100% get it, that they're saying the Canucks are so full of, they're lying to us. Demko has to be hurt, this, that, and the other. Demko hasn't played since Monday. So the emergency recall comes today. He can't play tomorrow, which means that is he good enough or is he an option to back up on Sunday? If that's the case, then I think that they're okay. They're just actually giving him a day off, and they are listening to him and saying, you know what, Thatcher, you're right. We're going to hold you to a pitch count. And you're going to look through the schedule maybe a couple weeks in advance and say, I need these couple days off. I want this couple days off because there's a little gap in the schedule. If he doesn't back up Sunday, doesn't play Monday, doesn't practice on Monday, I think that begs a massive question as to what's going on with Thatcher Demko.
I think the thing that confuses me is you just said it, like emergency recall, like Demko can't play tomorrow, can't back up.
But Demko could have told them on Tuesday or Wednesday that I want this weekend off, that I'm off, that I'm not skating Friday, I'm not skating Saturday.
Okay, but that's what I mean is like if there's an emergency recall, like you can't take it off for maintenance. Like it has to be, you have to be able to.
Like I've got the CBA section
open it.
Pulled up
Tell
here
us.
for emergency recall.
Harm dial, everybody. First words he's saying on today's show. Sorry, Harm.
Love you, Harm.
So this is Article 13 of the CBA. Emergency conditions shall be established when the playing strength of the club by reason of incapacitating injury. I butchered that.
Incapacitating
injury. Basically, as a result of that, you are below two healthy goaltenders, and So there is some level of like, you can't just say load management and
No.
call up
Yeah.
Era. There needs to be some semblance of, okay, he is under 100% full health. But like you said, it could be just as simple as he misses Saturday, but then ends up playing Sunday. And that would technically qualify because, well, you could argue that he's not healthy for Saturday.
Yep. And I think that that's what's going to happen. Whether he plays or backs up on Sunday, I think that remains to be the question. But as far as we know, and as far as it's laid out right there, he's not going to be in the lineup tomorrow against the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think that was going to be a Kevin Lankinen game anyway. I think if we really looked at the schedule and what they have coming, like the run of Sunday against Colorado, Tuesday against Winnipeg, and then travel practice day, you play Carolina on Friday. They're probably all going to be Thatcher Demko games if you want to get him on a run. And I think this is part of him being like, okay, if I'm going to go on a run here, let me get my body where it needs to be. Now, we've seen this story before, right? You look at Derek Forbort, you look at the maintenance day, and now obviously he's nowhere to be seen for a long time for the Vancouver Canucks. So I get where the fan base is coming from and, saying that, the Canucks are quote unquote lying and not telling them the truth. But if that's the case and Thatcher Demko really is on, a pitch count and wanting to do what he wants to do in order to feel the best, I think that's the most important thing for them and for him. Don't get me wrong. He wants to play. Dude wants to play. Like, getting him off the ice and him not in games is probably a bigger struggle than getting him on the ice. Like, he wants to be there. So I think when you have these moments of looking at it and say, okay, he's such a fiery competitor, what the hell's going on? Is this really something that they thought of together? I think that's another question as well.
Yeah, especially at such a critical
you're right.
point of the season against really tough competition when you're going to need him. And I really think, especially with it being a back-to-back, and if you have to turn to Yuri Patera for one of those starts or run Lankinen on short rest on both legs of it, I think that is concerning to me because that both Demko and the Canucks would have really wanted to have him out there for at least one of those games, especially considering the quality of the opponents, Columbus Blue Jackets, Colorado Avalanche, a couple of the best offensive teams in the NHL. What I wanted to ask you, Irf, was, and Adam Foote alluded to it a little bit in that answer about some of the conversations they had in the summer about wanting to manage his workload and health. Overall, what did you hear before the season started about how Thatcher and the organization were going to manage his workload and just strategize around keeping him healthy in a season where there's a condensed schedule?
I think it's just that. You nailed it. Manage and strategize, right? They were going to look at scheduled starts. They're going to look at back-to-backs. They're going to look at practice days. They're going to look at absolutely everything. This team, Jim Rutherford even said it, if all goes well, we can be a playoff team. So right now, unfortunately, all is not going well. If it was in their world, then Demko would be available and willing for games back-to-back in March and in April when they really needed him the most. And right now, obviously, with the injuries that they have and the rough start that this team has had, and then adding now the Demko news on top of this, it just makes it look so much worse. But I've heard that, it is going to be that. He's going to look at the schedule. He's going to look at games where, he feels that he needs a day off or 2 days off, or maybe getting off the ice and not being on the ice and maybe doing video. That's one thing. He could skate and have a full day off, or he could skate and not practice and nobody would know with his teammates. He could skate at 7 a.m. with the goalie coach and we don't know, right? Like that conceivably can happen. If he just wants to go out and work by himself for half an hour, that's totally with his realm of whatever he wants to do. So the schedule, the meetings that the leadership group had, and, obviously Adam Foote alluding to the guys saying that, Demmer, you got to know when you're good to go and you got to know when to take some time off. I think that's big because I think that there's been problems where, coaching staffs and maybe even Thatcher, went in too many games and played too much. And I think right now with the way that the sky is falling, just adding this to the list of things that are going not so well for the Canucks just makes it that much more worse for the fan base.
The fan base, the media, that loss to Chicago. I mean, you're on rink wide. Like, you know how the fan base is feeling right now. Where are you at with this team, and what would be your course of action? Like, Harmon and I were talking yesterday at how, at the very least, like, you're not giving up a first round pick to go add to this team right now, at the very least. But we're not at the blow it all up right now, but we were saying you're kind of close to that. Where are you at right now? And then I'll ask you about the ownership side of it, but where are you at personally right now with this team?
I think we're a few weeks away from really judging where this team is. I've always said American Thanksgiving is the pretenders, the contenders, and the middles. And the Canucks for how many years have been the middles, right around American Thanksgiving, right? And I think that the loss to Chicago was bad because the first two periods were so good. And then you just fall apart completely in that third. And you see the visual frustration from guys like Quinn Hughes, where you haven't seen really in years past, where the frustration of him slamming his stick against the boards or kind of going at a player on the opposing team. And you've kind of seen that. So I'm not at the point where blow it up yet. If they're really out of it and they're a point or two away from the Calgary Flames or the San Jose Sharks come the end of this month, then maybe we have to have a real conversation about it. They shouldn't be trading first round picks. If anything, they should be looking for first round picks if they really want to blow it up and things go sideways. So that's kind of where I'm at now. The loss against Chicago, obviously doing rink wide after with J-Pat, it was awesome. People were fiery. There were question marks surrounding the team. Is Elias Pettersson an overpaid 50 million or 50-point guy? That's a question where we really need to have here from people that cover the team, people that watch the team. And I think that his play frustrates some other people on the team as well. It's just this guy's had it for so long. Where did it go? And how can it be so gone? So that's another thing that, people look at. And obviously people that cover the team, coach the team, own the team, that are teammates of his are kind of wondering where this guy has gone and if it'll ever come back.
What have you heard about management's approach with Kiefer Sherwood? First of all, even going back to last summer where they extended Garland and Demko as soon as they were extension eligible. Obviously, Kiefer Sherwood didn't get done. Were there conversations had last summer? And now that he's off to this hot start, what do you think their approach is right now? Are they leaning towards wanting to get an extension done? Could they be open to the idea of trading him if things go sideways for this team? Big picture, where do you think this team is at as far as Kiefer Sherwood's future?
I think they would like to get an extension done. I think that Kiefer Sherwood has played himself out of their price range. He's repped by Wasserman, Judd Moldaver, reps, Connor Garland, reps Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid. I think the number is going to start with a 5. I think that he knows that some team somewhere in free agency is going to get to $5 million for Kiefer Sherwood on an AAV. That's what I do think. Is it going to be the Vancouver Canucks? I'm not entirely sure. It can't be at that. You're right. But if they are out of it, then you have to trade him. He's the guy that you're going to have to look at and become your biggest asset at the deadline if this completely gets away from you and things go sideways. So I just think that you look at it and say, is Kiefer Sherwood, how much of a future does Kiefer Sherwood have? And are we willing to pay him $5 million on an AAV when he's only in the top 6 sometimes because no one else is playing well or we have injuries? Like, he's a bottom 6 guy making $5 million. That's a lot of money. I know cap's going up.
Yeah. But if you can get a first round pick for that dude, like, that is found money. That is such a slam dunk. That is such a feather in the cap of management. They went out and get this guy in free agency for pennies on the dollar. Every team around the league is wondering, how did we miss out on Kiefer Sherwood? And now one of those teams is going to have to pay up to get him from the Canucks just for a playoff run. Like, that's a huge win for this organization and this management group.
Yeah. I mean, what is, like, how desperate is the team going to be? It's going to be one of the top dogs that it's willing to give up a first round pick. And that ends up being 28, 29, 30, 31, or 32.
Fantastic. A second round pick. You're laughing. The dude. They signed the dude to play on the fourth line. Like, the guy was signed to play fourth line, third line minutes, and he's been so much more.
Yeah, he's been 19 goal scorer. And he's playing on their top line, leads the team in goals. Like, he's a hell of a hockey player. He hits everything that moves. He contributes to games in so many different ways. PK, special teams, obviously hits everything that moves, like I just said. But again, is he going to price himself out of range of the Vancouver Canucks? I don't think that they want to get to $5 million, and I think that the starting point for him is going to be 5.
I've started to wonder, just with the past day, like the conversations we've been having. We've been talking about what happens when you get to that point. And again, Sherwood's kind of the obvious one, but have you started to think about like other names that the Canucks could be looking at the deadline if they want to go get some assets? Like obviously Kevin Lankinen's going to come to mind.
I'm not doing it.
You're not throwing out names?
I'm not doing what you're leading me to do. I'm not doing it.
I'm not
had this conversation yesterday in the studio. I'm not doing it.
I'm not asking you to report anything. I'm just saying, have you thought about any names?
I've thought of many. There's a lot. There's a lot of names on this current roster that you could get a lot for. But I think that going into next summer, you need to know where the direction of your team is. You need to have answers from players, from people of what they want to do and what their futures are, because then you can plan to do it. I don't think that there's an answer right now, considering certain players and different things that are going on. I think next summer you go into it and you have 31 other teams that are willing to make you offers for not one, not two, any of your players. Right now at the deadline, I mean, depending who it is, there's only a handful of teams that are going to really look to bolster their team with what you have. And let's be honest, other than the major players, like who on the Canucks puts a team over the edge right now? Who on that roster? They're not trading Jake DeBrusk, probably not trading Brock Besser. Elias Pettersson's not getting traded.
Yeah. I was looking at like I said, I'm thinking a goaltender potentially, probably Lankinen, right? Like that one comes to mind.
Yep. Lankinen's an interesting one. Garland too, but I just
Garland, like I think so if he keeps it up. I put him in that Sherwood conversation where it's like he's playing so much better, but the extension makes things a little different, I think.
He's got 5 years left.
Yeah. Isn't it even more?
Harm, let me ask you, have you done digging into like the numbers and to what Sherwood could command on an open market?
Yeah, I haven't done a full deep dive, but just generally speaking, I've tried to do a deep dive into, for middle class players, what do contracts sort of look like? And I think the interesting takeaway is it's a very case by case example. And I had this conversation with both execs and team side people where, because not every team is going to be able to spend to the cap once it's beyond 100 million. And because top players always get paid first, both the UFAs and the RFAs, I think you're in a situation where just because there's a ton of cap space in the system doesn't mean that teams are going to spend a ton of money on mid players. And so there is a difference, though, if you look at the trends where big-bodied / physical players, whether they're third liners or second pair defensemen, are getting paid, right? Like Jack McBain, he was an RFA, but $4.25 million for him in a long-term deal. Trent Frederick, 8-year deal for him, got $22 million more than Pius Suter in free agency. We saw the
Joshua got paid.
Yeah, we saw the Tanner Jeannot contract. We saw Cody Ceci, Brian Dumoulin. Like teams will pay. Teams will pay.
Can't teach size
prices for physicality. Now, when it comes to Kiefer Sherwood, he's not the biggest guy, right? He's smaller than pretty much all the guys I mentioned, but he does play with that edge and is the hits leader. So I imagine the team's going to look at him and say, if we've got a young, exciting core, we would love to have him on our third line just to crash and bang and pot some secondary goals in as well. So I do think it would probably be $4 to $5 million range for a Kiefer Sherwood. And to just cap off the difference between, the guys that play it with an edge versus don't, Jack Roslovic had to take $1.5 million on a 1-year deal after scoring 22 goals.
He also, that one's a little bit of an outlier. He screwed himself over. He turned down a 3-year deal, making way more money.
True, but even Kuzmenko, after scoring 17 points in 22 games with the Kings down the stretch, he just re-upped for 1 year.
Yeah.
There was no one that was, even before you extend that deal, or you re-sign that deal if you're Kuzmenko's camp, you generally know what the market would look like if your player makes it to July 1st, and you don't re-sign for only 1 year and that little guaranteed money unless you think your market isn't going to be in demand come July 1st. And then Pius Suter only got 2 years of term left, 2 years of term on his contract. So it is a case-by-case basis when it comes to these middle-class players, but I think Sherwood, because of his physicality, that teams would be willing to pay a premium for it.
Quads, you go, like you watch. Harm, you go, you watch, you see it. Like I posed the question to JPAD, I think, and we talked about it a little bit. Over a 10, 12 game stretch, is this team is currently assembled? Can they go like 7-4-1? Can they go 6-4 over 10 games?
Not with the next 10 games they have.
Or we 1 win, 1 loss, 1 step forward, 1 step back. Is that kind of the way that this team is going to be the whole season? Because if it is, then there's a lot of problems.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I think we've gotten.
With ownership, where do you think they're at in terms of their leash with this management group? If we get to the trade deadline and the Canucks playoff chances look like they're in trouble, and we're having these conversations about potentially selling at the deadline, do you think that there is still a lot of trust and faith in a Patrick Allvin-led front office? Or is Patrick Allvin maybe not going to be the one who is responsible for looking to the future and turning it around and potential retool or rebuild?
I think, first of all, when teams have a bad start, everyone's on the hot seat. Nobody's job is safe. And I think with the expectation that this team had, you can kind of use injuries as an excuse a little bit for sure. But I think that everyone's going to be under the microscope, especially if they're going to go to the deadline and you're in the same situation as the Calgary Flames are. You're in the same position as teams like the San Jose Sharks are. Like, you're not a team that's going to be competing. You're going to be a lottery team. I think everyone's job is going to be looked at very, very, very closely. That starts with, right at the top. It starts with Jim Rutherford, then to Patrick Allvin, right? And I think that the people making the decisions, Adam Foote, he coaches what's given to him. What's given to him is given by Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford. So if that's the case, then you look at teams around the National Hockey League right now. I mean, you look at the Nashville Predators. I mean, I don't think Barry Trotz's job is on the hot seat, but people are calling for the head coach there. And, things are starting to percolate in different areas. A lot of people thought that, Kevin Adams' job is going to be, up in the air in Buffalo when things go bad. So I think for owners, for them, you really have to look at it from a bigger microscope as to what did we accomplish in the last few years. One, they got to the playoffs, and they weren't good after that. And what has happened and who has come in and who has left this organization during this regime. JT Miller, gone. Bo Horvat, gone. Elias Pettersson, extended. Don't know the future of Quinn Hughes yet. That's still up in the air. Those are 4 insanely large pieces to this Canuck puzzle that have gone or still don't know what's going on and what's going to happen in the future. So I don't think we can sit here and say without a doubt that every single person's job is safe, because I don't think that's fair. But I also don't think that I'm calling for anyone to get fired here. I don't think that that's fair either. I think that we just have to wait and see what happens. And if we're having the same conversation at the end of the month in November, right around December, around Christmas, then maybe we can talk about it a little more.
Irf, last one for me. What have you thought of the job that Adam Foote's done so far?
I think it's been okay. I think that, it's been well documented of player use and ice time has kind of been up and down a little bit. I'm not entirely sure that, he's a guy that doesn't know what he's doing. Like, he's obviously qualified enough to coach in the National Hockey League. He ran a bench for quite some time. Him and Quinn Hughes have a very good relationship. And I think it's going to take time, right? I think that jumping from an assistant into a head coaching role isn't easy. There's so much more you need to take into consideration when coaching a game. You're barely watching the game. You're managing your bench. You're looking to see what's going on. And then you're trying to figure out your best opportunity to win. So for Adam Foote, I think it's been tough because of also the injuries. How many times has he had his full lineup, top to bottom, healthy this season? Maybe a handful. So I don't want to, come in and say that Adam Foote's done a terrible job with this team and he doesn't know what he's doing, because he hasn't really had the complement of guys left, right, and center to be able to go and, go on a run of 10 to 12 games where we look and really see what they have. But I think so far it's been fine.
I think the last couple of days there have been a lot of nuts of positive conversations on this show, reacting to the loss to Chicago and just where this team is at big picture in its cycle. However, if there is a silver lining or a glimmer of hope for how this team can get back on track, because as negative as the conversation has been in this market, they still have a record. They're not out of it as far as playoff, right? So mini 100%. Winning streak, and you're right there again.
Yep.
What is the bull case? What is the best case scenario for how this Canucks team can get back on track and maybe surprise some of us and end kind of some of this retool, rebuild conversation by going on a win streak. What does that process look like?
Look, let me be clear. Jonathan Lekkerimäki coming back isn't going to save the team. Teddy Bluger coming back isn't going to save this team. Derek Forbert's going to make the PK a little bit better, but it's not saving this team. It's within that room. It's Elias Pettersson. And if he can somehow find his game and get back to, being half of what he was, they'll take 80 points from him. You don't need 100. They'll take 80. If he can get to that level and take over games, then I think they'll be okay. Quinn Hughes, I'm literally just about to say that. Quinn Hughes hasn't been as dominating as he has been. And I'm going to turn to you a little bit. I mean, I'm just doing it with just a guy that watches the games and just can see the visible frustration in that. But has anything stood out to you differently when you really do a deep dive into his game and to like his offensive rush chances and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, I know he has his puck on his stick a lot, like near the top of the league, but is he doing anything with it?
Not really. Only 1 5-on-5 point this season, which is pretty shocking. And you can see it even in just the underlying two-way results where they've been outshot with him on the ice. They've been outchanced with him on the ice, and they've been outscored, I believe, 11-8 at 5-on-5, which is just unheard of when it comes to Quinn Hughes. And not to say he's been terrible, but we saw the last couple of years, especially last season, on a team where nothing else was seemingly going right, that he could just put the superhero cape on and drive offense all by himself, dominant two-way results. And you're right, we haven't had that version of himself yet. And now maybe he missed a few games with that lower body injury, so perhaps health is a limiting factor. But he's the guy that I look at even more than Elias Pettersson, because Elias Pettersson, he's been what he is for the last almost 2 years now, since February 2024. So the whole, my faith in him suddenly becoming an 80 to 90 point offensive guy, my confidence level in that is lower than my confidence level in, can Quinn Hughes go back to just being the player that he was last 2 years?
Yeah. I 100% I agree with that, but you also need someone on offense to.
I agree.
Some sort of look. Like he can't have one shot against the Chicago Blackhawks. You just can't, right? And I think that the drop pass to Evander, obviously, the pass from Evander probably was a little bit late, but shoot the puck, man. Just shoot it. Like we all know you can do it. Just please shoot it for your sake, so we can stop talking about this.
I must say, I love that this last question started with Harm saying there's been a lot of negative questions and a lot of negative talk on this show. So let's end on a positive, and it ended like this.
Well, of course. I mean, look, I think that there's ways of them getting back there. Like they just need to go on a run. They need to bear down. They need to go on a run. And what better test to see where you are up against? I mean, look, the Columbus Blue Jacket game, you can't even say should win. That's just going to be a tough game for them. There's no easy out in the NHL, especially for them. But your big dog games coming up, like those are going to be some really big tests for your team. These are character games for your group. You play at home against the Colorado Avalanche, Stanley Cup, they're near the tops of the favorites. The Winnipeg Jets obviously have been in that conversation a lot, in the Carolina Hurricanes. Those are teams that are going to be active at the deadline. Those are the teams that are going to add because they think that they can win a Stanley Cup. How do you stack up against them is going to be the biggest question.
Irf, thanks for this. Appreciate it, man.
All right, gentlemen, be well. Happy Friday.
There he is, Irfaan Gaffar. Catch him this weekend on Rinkwide Vancouver. He was brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. You can skip the line and not have to pay cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 on select drinks, and more. With the arcade, bar, and street food menu, make Greta your spot to watch the big game. It's interesting, the conversations that are going on right now. Do you have a stat of the day that's going to make people feel better or worse about this team?
Well, it's actually not directly about them. It's about their opponents this weekend.
Let's do it.
Let's go to it. The stat of the day is a presentation.
I'm sorry. I messed up your transition. You probably had a really nice transition plan, and I just butchered it. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It works. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals in the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins, if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip. Before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every hockey fan's experience all season long. Hashtag crave the stats. So a back-to-back against Columbus first, then Colorado on Sunday. The two teams in the NHL that are generating the most shots per game. That's going to be a really interesting test. Colorado was number 1 in the league, 34.1 shots per game, and Columbus is second behind them at 32.8 shots per game. This is going to be an interesting test, I think, of Adam Foote's ability to adjust, because we saw what happened against the Chicago Blackhawks, where, yeah, the Canucks created a lot of chances too. They piled up a ton of shots, almost 50 of them, but they don't have the high-end skill to think that they're going to win a track meet against the Colorado Avalanche or even the Columbus Blue Jackets. Since last year, the Blue Jackets have been filthy, so fast, so dynamic, so skilled, with all the young players that they've developed, the young forwards they have. So for me, I want to see whether this team can adapt and tighten things up defensively, get back to their defensive fundamentals. The forwards have to do a better job of covering for the defensemen. Either that or the defensemen have to realize, all right, the forwards on this team aren't doing a great job of covering for us when we pinch or step up in the neutral zone or in the attacking zone to try and keep plays live. So we're going to have to be more thoughtful and calculated about when we go. One of those things has to change right off the bat. Your puck management is going to have to be sharp, because rush teams just feast on the counter when there's a change in possession. Your forwards have to be extra disciplined about being ready to transition from offense to defense in a hurry, and just all the little details, right? If you're a defenseman and you got the puck at the point, you got to make sure if you're trying to get a shot through that you're at least getting it past the first layer of traffic, right? If your shot is blocked, that's immediately going to be a chance on the counter going back the other way. And just systems wise, I want to see them defend the middle a whole lot better than they have been. This is a massive test, because when a team like Colorado comes into town, for example, it's not just that 5-man unit, the cheat code crew of McKinnon, Natchez, Lehkonen, Makar, and Taves. You look up and down the lineup, and this Avs team has a lot of speed. You got Brock Nelson on the second line. Valeri Nichushkin has been cooking. And even on that third line, you got Jack Drury and Gabe Landeskog. You have Gavin Brindley on your fourth line, who's fast and dynamic and fun. And then even on their back end on the third pair, you've got a puck mover like Sam Malinsky, who is what we thought Eric Brandstrom might have actually been if he was good. Just this undersized, fun guy who can create. So the point being, it's not just shutting down the big dogs. This is going to have to be a team effort, because a team like Colorado, they've been blitzing teams, no matter if it's their third line on the ice or their third D pair. It's not just the top end of the lineup that you have to worry about with them. And so I really want to see the Canucks tighten up defensively.
I love it. I love it. And the schedule, as we've talked about, doesn't get much easier after that. Let's get to anyone else. We got a few things that I want to get to in anyone else. Anyone else is brought to you by Pacific Toyota Dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. You can drive up to 72 kilometers on the battery alone, then seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower style with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. Plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charge stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down, and it includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. All right. I wanted to kick off anyone else with just a thought I had, and I texted you this take. You tell me if I'm right or wrong, because we were talking about rebuilds yesterday. We wrote an article about it at CanucksArmy.com, and the feedback was really positive. Like, there wasn't anybody really that was like, no, don't. This is great. Keep doing what you're doing. But I think where the disagreement came and where I think we needed to clarify, there were some people that for some reason, like, I don't think we clarified this when we were talking about rebuilding. We weren't saying you trade like Jonathan Lecker-Mackey. But there was people that are like, oh, if you go scorched earth, you trade everybody. That's not. I don't think that's what I was saying, and I don't want to speak for you, but unless I'm wrong, that's not what you were saying either. Was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, trade these current young guys. Like, you don't trade Max Sasson. Not that there'd be much, in return, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
those guys, you keep those guys. You're not building around Max Sasson, but like, you're fine with keeping those guys. Like, that's not what you're moving out in a rebuild, and you're not moving Tom Verlander so you can go get a first round pick or a second round pick. You're not moving Jonathan Lekkerimäki so you can go get draft picks. Like, that's not what we're saying. In fact, I think this management group has done such a good job of balancing. Well, I shouldn't say such a good job, but they've at least kept an eye on the future while trying to build this team. And it's a tough task. Like, it's been a tough task to kind of have your foot in both pools. And I think what we're saying is you have to kind of pick a direction and go with it. But like, they've drafted well. You get a legit prospect in DPD in the third round. You draft a future Hall of Famer in Alexei Medvedev last year in the second round. You get Braden Coots, who looks like he has legitimate second line upside at 15th overall. Like, I'm sorry. You know what would cause us not to have any conversations and for this management group not to be on any sort of hot seat is them trading that first round pick last year. But they didn't do it. And the organization long-term is better off for it. And what I'm getting at is, I'm applauding the fact that they haven't just like Jim Benning, for example. They were giving up first-round picks to go out and like just try to get to that playoff bar. This is a team that was already around that playoff bar, or we thought they would be, right? And if they had made another trade, maybe they get pushed into that just past the playoff bar conversation, but they're not as much on the bubble. Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
And they didn't do it. Like, they've focused on also building for the future. The one first round pick they've traded was when, like, nobody was saying when the Lindholm trade happened that they shouldn't have done that. That was a team.
It made sense.
They won the division title. They won the Pacific Division. That's a team that is worth investing in. Like, you go and you add to that team. That was 100% the right move, but they haven't done it. They haven't done it since then. And I want to just point out that if you choose the direction of a rebuild, which we're talking about is maybe going to happen in a few weeks if the bottom falls out, right? If you go that direction, you're not starting from zero. You've got prospects in the pipeline. You've got guys that are on the cusp of being NHL contributors in Lekkerimäki, in Verlander. Verlander's been a great revelation from the leaps he's made since we saw him at training camp to what we're seeing from him now. Like, that's a huge bright spot for this team. And if you go the direction of building for the future, again, I bring it up. I don't think you're looking at 4 or 5 years of darkness. I think you're looking, and it helps that you're not starting on third base, but you're starting at least on first base with the guys I just mentioned, Coots, Verlander, Alexei Medvedev, Bobrovsky. You're starting at least on first base if you choose to go this route. So what I'm really trying to say is it's not all doom and gloom right now for this team if they decide to go that direction. And it goes back to what I've been saying. I think fans would support it. I think fans would be very excited about it.
Yeah, I agree that it's now if you had said they're on second base, I would have pushed back on that a little bit because
they're on first with a leadoff. They got a leadoff, but it's a lefty on the mound.
Yeah, well, because they have good prospects, but the thing you have to keep in mind is at least half the league has good prospects. If you were to look at the Canucks prospect pool just on a league-wide scale, most prospect analysts would probably tell you around middle of pack.
Yep.
Right? So that's where they're at. It's not as if they have a top 5 or a top 10 prospect pool.
But they were 29th before when they were also in this spot of the mushy middle. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, it's definitely better. And it gives you a starting point, but you're still going to have to, if you go down that direction, land your true top of the lineup stars. Yeah. Right? Where Verlander's great, and I think he's got the potential to have a really long career as an effective top 4 defenseman. But watching him in college and even some of the scouts I talked to, people aren't talking about him as, oh, he's going to be a top pair stud who puts up 50 points a season, logs 25 minutes a game, and is one of the 50 best defensemen in the NHL. Right? Yeah. The expectation was he can be a good number 3 defenseman if he pans out right, which is a really valuable piece, especially on the right side of the blue line. But it's not necessarily a number 1 or a number 2. You're not thinking, oh, we've got Tom Verlander. So if there's a world where you don't have Quinn Hughes long term, you're fine because you got Tom Verlander. That's not the conversation.
Yeah.
A good starting point. Same sort of thing with Coots, right? We talked about him maybe as, or I shouldn't even say we, the industry as a whole thought about him as, all right, he's got maybe third line potential. I think he's looked better than we've anticipated. And so now we kind of maybe bump that up to thinking, okay, maybe one day he's a second line center.
Yeah. High end 3C or low end 2C.
And that's a really valuable piece, especially down the middle, how hard centers are to get. But he's not going to be a 80 point number 1C, right? So you still have to land those pieces, but you're right that it's not as if the cupboards are completely empty. And in your, say, the Boston Bruins, when they had to go through, I wouldn't even call what they're doing a rebuild because they've kept most of their top guys. But when they went into their retool, it was, man, they've got nothing. Or the Pittsburgh Penguins, they've got stuff in the pipeline now, but initially a couple of years ago, before guys like Kindle and Brunick came into the equation, McGroarty, their pipeline was one of the worst in the NHL. The Canucks aren't in that position. You're right.
And this is what I'm saying is you're right. You need those high-end guys, but some disciplined selling and a bit of a rebuild for the next one or two seasons. Like, you increase your chances of getting those guys. The problem for the Canucks is that they haven't had they've got a high batting average, but they haven't had as many shots as you would have liked. Like, there's people in the chat right now, and I should have clarified. What I meant was the Canucks trading their own picks, right? We talked about it on yesterday's show that part of the problem is you traded JT Miller, and the first round pick you got in that trade, you immediately used it to get Marcus Pettersson. Well, now you've got no centers. But if you had drafted a defenseman, and this was the point you made really well yesterday, is you trade JT Miller and, oh, we don't need to go flip it for Marcus Pettersson because we've already got a defenseman that we really like, a young defenseman that we drafted 2-3 years ago. But because 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it is.
Well, during the Jim Benning regime, honestly.
During the Jim Benning regime, they were trading those picks. That's the point that I'm trying to make, is they were trading all of those picks. So this group is trying to take what they had with Hughes, with Pettersson, the core you believed in. They were trying to make that a team that could compete for a playoff spot while also recognizing that, you know what, we're going to need more down the line. So we have to keep drafting. We have to keep developing some prospects. And again, I'm not saying it's a perfect plan. And look, if you had taken the picks that you got in the Hronek trade and drafted, or excuse me, the ones that you used to get Hronek, and you had just used those, obviously it was the Horvat trade. If you had used those picks to draft, if you had used the pick from the JT Miller trade to draft, like, yeah, you might be in a better spot, especially with the context of the conversation we're having right now. All I'm saying is not moving that draft pick and getting Braden Coots, like, that was an opportunity to do another shortcut, which is what we kept talking about yesterday, was these shortcuts. That was an opportunity that they passed on, and I like that they passed on it. And now when we have this conversation about, yeah, this team probably needs to rebuild, it's not as daunting of a task where you're like, well, they've got nothing to sell and they've got nothing coming in the pipeline. Like, there's some intriguing names in this prospect pipeline. Read Blackfish.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I don't really have anything to add to that.
Dylan McDonald in the chat said, Medvedev looks like a stud. Understatement. Coots is a stud. Is that our new window? Waiting on those 18-year-olds. May as well add as many prospects around that age as we can. I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that you increase you increase your number of guys that can be real impact contributors that are all coming up in the same window, right? And, you know, you're going to keep some guys from this current team, right? Like, I don't think Elias Pettersson is going anywhere. Jake DeBrusk, like all these sorts of conversations, all these guys that are here right now, like, you're not going to blow up the whole team. Some of these guys are going to be here, and you're going to want some of those guys to be culture carriers. You're not just going to want, and now conversations about who those culture carriers should be is a different conversation. But that being said, bringing in this wave of youth and making a really conscious effort to, okay, we're gonna sell off Kiefer Sherwood and we're going to use a first or a second round pick that we get in that trade to draft and add another guy to this prospect pipeline. Because the truth is, you're not going to bat 1,000, but you might go get someone that's going to be a real impact contributor, like you did when you got Elias Pettersson in the 3rd round. You're going to need more high end than that. So it's going to take more than just trading Kiefer Sherwood. Like, that's not a rebuild. That's a retooling move, is just trading Kiefer Sherwood. You're going to need to do more than that. You're also going to need to finish low in the standings and use your own 1st round pick to maximize your chances of getting a really good player in the top 5. I'd also like to point out to people that they traded, was it Hansen or Burrows? No, it was Hansen and Burrows. They traded Hansen and Burrows at the deadline. They were terrible. And then what happened? They finished with the 2nd worst record in the league, and lottery luck sucks, but they drafted 5th overall. They got Elias Pettersson. Now, I know that doesn't mean as much to people given the current state of Elias Pettersson's game, but that was the one year where they quote unquote tanked. And what did they get? Elias Pettersson. The next year, Quinn Hughes, right? Like, and again, that wasn't as aggressive as a tank, but they were bad and they got Quinn Hughes as a result. Even though that darn lottery luck didn't work, they drafted the best defenseman that's ever played for this organization at 7th overall. You can't keep picking 10 through 20 and expect to get that impact guy. You've got to be in the top 10.
100% nailed it. Now, the elephant in the room, obviously, and this is where we still have to wait and see how the team actually does over the next couple of months. But the elephant in the room is obviously going to be Quinn Hughes' future. Because if he like, it's any conversation around what's the direction of the franchise starts with, is Quinn Hughes going to re-sign or not? Because if the answer is, yeah, he's still willing to give you a bit of a shot and stay beyond his current contract, then you're not going to rebuild, right? There's just no way. That doesn't, it's going to be incompatible with the idea of actually keeping Quinn Hughes.
100%.
However, if things go off the rails this year and you don't feel confident about that, well, then that's almost certainly going to initiate what should be a rebuild. So
yeah,
the conversation starts with Quinn, and that's something that can't really have that discussion until we see how the team actually performs over the next couple of months.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all I'm saying is, and again, obviously this rebuild conversation, like we said yesterday, and I realize we have new people watching today, so I should have said, like we gave the context yesterday, this only matters if Quinn Hughes doesn't want to be here long term, right? All I'm saying is that he came into the season and was pretty honest about the fact that the results this year are going to matter and impact his decision. And ever since then, he's just like sounded miserable every time he has to talk about what's going on. We see the body language on the ice and everything. So I'm not saying, oh, he's gone. I'm just saying, like, I'm not looking at it right now and being like, oh, I feel awesome about his chances of staying. I feel great about that. That's definitely happening. You got to have the conversation. You got to at least prepare for if he doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, he wants to win. There's zero question and doubt about that. Anybody that's dealt with him or knows people that are close to him knows how much he values wanting to have a chance to be in the playoffs every year and have meaningful, sustainable team success, right? Again, I've mentioned this countless times before. Franchise players think about their legacy and not just wanting to put up individual accolades and win these individual awards and have these amazing individual stat lines. But if they know that if they want to be remembered as one of the best players of their generation, that they're going to have to win a Stanley Cup, win an Olympic gold, have amazing playoff runs where the postseason is where, especially among your peers, you gain an extra level of respect.
Yep.
It's just different. It's just different. You could be the best regular season player in the world, but if you haven't done it at the playoff level, and it may not even be your fault in the case of Quinn Hughes because he just hasn't had many opportunities to play in the playoffs. But if you haven't done it at the playoff level yet, it's the same thing for Connor McDavid. He's not going to be viewed on that Mount Rushmore, no matter how gifted and talented he is, until he gets that Stanley Cup, and you see how obsessed he is with that.
Yep, 100% agree. The Olympic jerseys, Canada Olympic jerseys. Jacob's going to pull these up for us. We didn't even talk about the new lines at practice. We'll do that to close out the show. These new Olympic jerseys, I like them until I realized the red lines at the bottom are different colors and they don't wrap all the way around. Am I right about that, Jacob?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I don't
Here's
like
another
that.
look.
People
They wrap
under this-
around the bottom, not around the arms.
Okay, they do wrap around the bottom. The picture I saw showed that they don't go on the back.
No, I'm pretty sure they do wrap around the
Okay.
back. I'll try and find
Okay.
another one.
Anyways,
In my quick opinion, the white one is like if the two shades of red match, it would be perfect. It's so
Yeah.
nice.
that's such a clean jersey. I like the okay. People don't like the black on the jersey. I like the black.
I like it. I like
Yeah.
it. And honestly, I wasn't sure when I saw the first screenshots, but this screenshot of it
Looks
in a
sick.
locker room setting looks so clean.
Yeah, I like it. I like these jerseys. Looks sick.
Yeah, Quads. I've got a few photos here. I'm not gonna pull them up, but like I've found some, and the stripes do wrap around the back. So
That's good.
Yeah.
That was necessary. They
yeah,
need
the
to
white
wrap
one. The white one is gorgeous, and if I'm getting a jersey, I'm getting that white one for sure. Also, I will point out Finland unveiled theirs as well. I really like
Ooh.
these Finnish jerseys.
Ooh.
They're sweet.
Ooh, those are clean. Those are
Yeah.
clean. I like that. I like
Yes.
that gradient on the side. That's cool.
They almost
so-
look like soccer jerseys a little bit, but they look nice.
A little bit, yeah. If you're on audio, just Google 2026 Olympic jerseys. You'll see Canada and Finland both being unveiled today.
All right. New lines at practice today. This courtesy of Jeff Patterson. Scenes from Morning Skate is up now at CanucksArmy.com. Obviously, Demko is the big story. We already covered that. But Brock Besser moved to the left wing on the third line with Atu Ratu and Kiefer Sherwood. DeBrusk, Reichel, and Drew O'Connor is your new second line. We'll see if that sticks for the weekend, how long into the weekend it sticks. And a DPD and Verlander pairing. It looks like we're going to see that. Joseph and McEachern were the extras. So, yeah, I don't think you're going to see P.O. Joseph on Saturday, and you're going to see a youth pairing of DPD and Verlander. Anything you want to say about the new line combos?
I'm a little bit surprised that they split up O'Connor and Sherwood just because their numbers together have been terrific as far as controlling play. And I think they've built up some chemistry, but I imagine when you have DeBrusk, Reichel, and O'Connor, you're looking at just a speed line that you're hoping can fly out there. We'll see whether like Sherwood's going to have to do a lot for that third line because Besser and Ratu are both on the slower side. So I don't have a hard take on whether I think this will work or not. I personally would have leaned towards keeping O'Connor and Sherwood together, but we'll see. I am curious to see whether it pans out or not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. The O'Connor Sherwood, like my take, I think, did I say it on this show that I
Yeah,
think,
you did.
Okay, good. Because I've been saying it to everyone in the press box. I think people are getting annoyed. But my take being that I think O'Connor's like watched what Sherwood does and is kind of like, oh, okay, this is how I can start to find some success. Because I think O'Connor's been great lately. I think he's really started to be a little more Sherwood-esque. Big guy that can skate. So, all right, we'll see how it goes on the weekend then. Like I said, we've said a few times, Columbus Saturday, Colorado Sunday.
They need bounce backs from Myers and Marcus Pettersson, especially
Maybe
Myers after that last game.
Don't let backdoor tap-ins go through.
Might be a good idea.
Might be a good idea. All right, let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day to close it out today. Is there NHL games on tonight? Yes, there is. Oh, baby. Oh, man. What? Did Chicago play last night? Chicago
I can't remember.
Black Hawks.
No, they didn't. Their last game was the 5-2 win in Vancouver.
I am hammering Chicago money line. They are taking on the Calgary Flames, and the Blackhawks are heavy underdogs. They're plus 130. Plus 130. Chicago Blackhawks money line. I'm taking that. The Flames.
Is Spencer
Flames
Knight
are-
not starting for them? Is that why?
Let me check daily faceoff.
Yes, thank you, Jacob.
The starting goalies tab. Use this as our Spencer Knight is the likely starter. Dustin Wolf confirmed for Calgary.
Wow. Okay. If Knight starts, I mean, interesting.
We'll see if he makes any insane saves tonight. We'll see. Didn't against Vancouver, apparently. All right, plus 130, Chicago Blackhawks money line. You can get that at Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get it on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Good conversations all week, Harm. I had a lot of fun. We'll be back on Monday to break down 2 Canucks games. Taking Tuesday off for Remembrance Day. We'll be back on Wednesday as well. So there's your quick schedule. New survey out yet, Jacob?
Yes, new survey is out. It's in the description. I'll quickly drop it into the YouTube live chat as well. But if you're watching on any other platform, it'll be in the description, and we will play Family Feud again next Thursday.
And I'm doing it from home. I went back and watched. I don't know what I wasn't in the zone. Like if I do a post-game press conference, I'd be also sorry, I didn't bring this up in anyone else. Did you see Ryan O'Reilly's press conference last night?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That was heartbreaking. Dude's pooping all over himself. And I tweeted it. I will not accept Ryan O'Reilly slander from Ryan O'Reilly.
Saying he's only had one good year in his career.
Yeah, he's like, I've only had
wild
one good
considering
year.
he's had a really good career.
Yeah, like he was teary-eyed, and the reason I bring that up is that's how I felt watching my performance on Family Feud yesterday. I played like garbage. I was so bothered with how I performed. It was not good. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, folks, Ryan O'Reilly, just search Ryan O'Reilly post-game press conference. It was tough. He was very emotional. Obviously, it's been really tough sledding in Nashville, but I don't know, man. Not on him. He's talking about, I can't make a 6-foot pass to save my life. It's like, yeah, I really like Ryan O'Reilly. I did not like to see that from him. That made me sad. He deserves better than that. All right, plus 130 Hawks money line.
A couple people also pointing out very similar press conference from Dobish. He was so good for Montreal, and he wasn't even terrible.
I watched that game. The Canadians give up so many chances.
Yeah, he was still good. They did not deserve to win the game, and he got them a point. And yeah, he was in tears after blaming himself.
He was 6-0 before that game.
Yeah, 6-0 with a .930 save percentage.
It's like Harmon putting up 120 points on Feud and then crying post game about how he blew it for us. And I'm like sitting there with my 30 points, and I'm all like, it's all good over here. Yeah, no, bummed me out. I'm glad you brought up Dobas too. I forgot about that. He's good. He's a really good goaltender. All right. That took a while to close out, but we will close it out there. For my co-host Harmon Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar, our thanks again to Irfaan Gaffar of Rink Vancouver for joining us on today's show. My name is Dave Gujelli. Have a great weekend, folks, and thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.